Welcome to Founders Unplugged, hosted by Greg McCallum. Long-form, honest conversations with founders and entrepreneurs from around the world. This is part 2 of this episode. Be sure to check out part 1 if you haven't already. Link in the description.
Okay, welcome back for part 2. I'm here with Sam Oliver. Thank you very much again for joining me. And please go and check out part 1 if you haven't already. We'll give some context to Sam, his story, and so on. So what were we just saying on the break? Yeah, what you were explaining a bit more about what you're giving me some more context to OpenFi. So continue with that train of thought if it's still there.
One of the things that I've learned is that it's just difficult to do anything in business, particularly building software. Building anything is very hard, and complexity is exponential. So the bigger your product vision, if you're going deep into a vertical or even across lots of verticals or deep into vertical, it gets really difficult. So like the first selection of customers we're working with are mortgage brokers. Now, giving financial advice is regulated, but a large part of what people want is they want the rates that are available. And it's a very straightforward algorithm of if you have this much income, this deposit, you want to buy a house that's valued at this percentage, these are the rates, we can give you this information, talking it through with AI, all pretty achievable. I mean, it is probably possible in the future to have an AI that gives the world's best financial advice. You know, it can be trained on all of the economics textbooks. It can know where we are in economic cycles. It can probably predict when interest rates are going to rise and fall and what's better for someone based on how stable their relationship is and how likely they are to get divorced. Like the level of amazingness that's going to be possible to do with this is huge. But we decided that we wanted to not go deep into a vertical. We wanted to go cross-vertical. And actually, where is the 80-20 Pareto law of adding the maximum value? So to do all of that stuff of essentially building a full AI broker is a ton of work, like an absolute ton of work, and requires a ton of compliance. Even if you clicked your fingers and you had the perfect AI broker, the cost of acquiring customers and building a brand in a completely saturated, as red and bloody an ocean as it can possibly be, is huge and very difficult to do sustainably. So instead, we're looking at, well, where is the big value we can deliver to mortgage brokers, but also any professional services industry? And it's that follow-up piece of just following up with a lead automatically and naturally to book in the meeting. So when we started to cut down what it is that we're doing, the AI, the power of the AI and what's going to be possible to build in future is wild. But what we're trying to do is actually fairly simple. It's like take a prospect and make sure that they're a good fit and get them booked in for a call. And if you need to reschedule the call, book them in for the call. So in terms of, we were talking about training data and like sales techniques, I think it's going to be possible to make it really good. But the first version is just, hey, do you want this call? Hey, do you want this call? Hey, do you want this call?
Right.
You need to reschedule this call. We've booked this call in for you again. Hey, your call's in a day. Hey, do you still want to turn up for this call? Hey, this is the link for your call. Like it's simple. It's not simple. It's simpler. But the value of that to the customer is huge. Like no shows, almost a third of their calls don't show. A huge number of their calls are non-qualified. Like a lot of brokers, you can just book straight into their diary with no qualification. You might not even live in the UK, or you might not even have a house that you know you want to buy. You might currently be unemployed with no savings. You can book in that call. So I think that being able to teach the AI to be a good salesperson, that's going to be very exciting. But it's much, much further down the roadmap. The first part is just getting the AI to do a good job of qualifying and booking in the meeting, which you could really do without AI, but having it done in natural language so it feels warm and is consistent is kind of the key.
Absolutely. And the way I see it, I think, is the progression is going to be, just like with everything, it's going to be very gradual, right? It will be a little bit of pre-qualification to start. It will be a little bit more of maybe segmenting customers and then distributing them to specific departments. It will be, bit by bit, until adding those skill sets, for want of a better word, into AI until we can start getting more towards that almost full cycle AI salesperson, basically, which is on the horizon. It will happen.
Definitely
But
going to happen.
you've got to start somewhere. And I think what you guys are doing is a great example of that place where it needs to be started, which is just, sometimes that really grueling work of following up, of getting a commitment, of getting that next step in the diary, and then of course making sure that they show up. I worked in, very early on in my career in telemarketing organizations, which was, soul destroying work. And the majority of that was just that. It was just trying to get that meeting, but then having making sure that you call them the day before and make sure you verify that we've still got a guy coming to see you, and is it still on, and and then rescheduling and doing this and then managing diaries, and like that's all just time wasted if it can be automated by something, when it's really not that well. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that complicated. It still is very complex, but it's not using a sort of reasoning and emotional thought process in order to, which is what salespeople do to kind of
to make
do the
it
rest
happen.
of the more complex process. Yeah.
If I try and boil down what we're doing at OpenFi, a lot of businesses have got a pre-qualification form or questionnaire on the website, inquiry form, that can be quite detailed. Once you've gone through it, you get to your Calendly embed live calendar, you can book in, it will confirm it, it will chase you up to turn up for it, it will let you cancel it. There is an end-to-end process for that part of the funnel that is very well catered. I mean, a lot of people aren't using it, but it's very well catered and it exists. What we're doing is putting the AI in to make sure people go through it.
Right.
It's like, if they don't answer question 3, chase them for question 3. If they're not booking, ask why they're not booking, or follow up with them in 3 days to get them to book. If they've booked, make sure they're still turning up. So in terms of like functionality, I don't think it's a big leap forward from what's like from a process and data entry point of view, capturing the same details and it's going into the same live diary. But from an actual percentage conversion point of view, way higher, because it feels like you've got an actual person chasing you to fill it out. And that's where the money comes, and that's where it's exciting for businesses.
Yeah. And I see the future very much being, that chasing, getting a lot more granular. So then it would be like, hey, I saw that you spent, a bit of time on this particular part of our website, but you didn't book anything in. Was there a specific question that you had around this topic, or is there this thing that interests you, would you like to know a bit more, and you can really start probing and doing that qualification and discovery process essentially.
That's also when knowledge base comes in really cool. So one of the features that we did decide to launch with right out of the gate, because it's so important for this, is nearly...
Hi, a friendly reminder to share this episode with your network, like and subscribe. And if you are feeling really supportive, please consider reviewing the show on the podcast platform of your choice. It all really helps support what we do. Thank you. Now back to the show.
All business processes right now are completely unidirectional. So if I send a marketing email, it's a marketing blast out giving you this information. Maybe there's some merge tags and it's minorly personalized, but it's like one way. If I'm gathering a form, it's like, you will give me this information and you can book into this diary. But it doesn't allow the other person to say, oh, but can you tell me XYZ? Can you help me with this? I've got a question around this. What is the pricing? What is the delivery time? Like, who else do you work with? Who in the team would I speak to? That's also what we're able to do within OpenFi, which is huge. We have knowledge base. We know everything about your website, all your pricing, all your onboarding documentation. Even already with brokers, not giving financial advice, but we have all the lending criteria from the broker's website. So if someone's coming on and they're answering the question like, do you have a CCJ and have you been to court? Pre-qualification question could be done in a form. If they turn around and say, why does this matter? Boom, we can give them an exact answer. Like, actually, as long as you haven't been to court in the last 3 years, or if you went to court and you won, or whatever the lending criteria guidance is, or, I mean, it's so granular. Like, are you wanting to buy a new build house, or are you buying an existing house? Like, if they turn around and say, well, why does this matter? Well, actually, the loan to value on a new build house can be 85%, but the loan to value on an existing house is only 75% with current lenders. Like, this is where it starts to get really good for the consumer. and still amazing for the business because it's higher conversions and way lower cost than getting people to do it.
I see this as very much a cyclical thing, actually, because now we're entering into a phase, I think, in the next few years where we're going to see people being able to have conversations again in order to make buying decisions. Like, there's, as crazy as it sounds, there seems to be this trend now of going, it has been for a few years, of moving away from allowing, basically just creating really shitty buying processes for people. Like, the buying experience for most things now is awful. Like you said, you either have to fill out a very lengthy form, give away details, you're asked for a lot, committing to a lot, either of time or information, before you're given really any valuable insight as to how valuable the product is. Like we were talking about a bit in part one, like it's just not particularly great as a customer journey. But now what's exciting about AI is it can start bringing that back in a weird way, bringing the human element back a little bit, which is how the mind works, which is, give me something first and then I will give you something. And that's why I'm super interested as well in kind of how we can start moving from text-based to audio-based, and then maybe even to the AI avatar-based thing soon too, which is all going to be super interesting. Do you have a vision with OpenFi that it can start moving to kind of audio, and then like, have you got crazy ambitions for that, or have you thought much about that?
So there are something crazy like 650 million business websites, ones that actually like have checkout and commerce functions on them. My core vision is that every single one of them will have a conversational AI on the website helping sell. Like you say, you walk into Comet to buy a fridge and they can ask some questions, answer some questions. There's a two-way conversation. The consumer's often got the ability to research, but making it way faster and easier for them to gather that research. When it comes to optimizing that experience with audio and video, I mean, it's going to be wild. I'm a big fan of behavioral economics. I love reading Dan Ariely, and Predictably Irrational, one of my favorite books. And I think that people buy from people that are similar to them. Great. Make the avatar the same age. Make it the same gender. Make it the same religion. Make it the same race. Make it have the same accent. People buy from people in positions of authority, like give it a uniform, give it a doctor title, like get careful with compliance on doctor title, but give it a title. And these kind of levels of optimization, they're going to be huge, but not something a startup can do. This is when you're a huge business and a 1% optimization drives like 150 million bottom line revenue, which we'll get to. I think keep it as simple as possible, get the 80-20. The other difficulty with video, and we looked at this at the start, very expensive. It's programmatically expensive, and costs are dropping like crazy. All of this money is going into researching, producing graphics cards and environmentally sustainable and data centers. But it's going to take some time before that becomes commercially viable. Even the LLM costs for pure text with complicated queries, and it depends from building technology, how much logic you want to put into the LLM versus how much you want separate. The costs can get very expensive for running these conversations. So will it get there? 100%. What will it look like in 5 years? Don't know. Got some ideas. I mean, I think highly personalized. I don't want to say this word, but I'm struggling for a better way to say it. Maybe you can help me frame it more positively. But I think the technology will become quite manipulative. Not that the algorithms powering your LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook newsfeed aren't already manipulative, but the recursive machine learning will become far better. And the way that it's able to interact with the human, it's not like, watch this video, you're going to like it. It's like, we'll create the exact video you like. I posted on LinkedIn this morning about YouTube's new partnership with Microsoft for having AI generated videos coming out. Like, wow, when the algorithms are optimizing what you want from your videos, it's going to become very coercive.
I agree, and it's the way it's definitely going to go. I mean, it won't be long until we start seeing ads where, depending on who's watching it, will change the actors in it and things like that. And maybe you'd even see
It's
yourself
already
in an
there.
ad.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
comments there's some great videos out there where there's a video and like a girl will there's a video of someone, having an argument with their boyfriend, and the girl will look at the comments and it's all of these views being like, the boyfriend's totally wrong. Like, you go girl, you go sister. And then she gets her boyfriend to open the same video and the comments are like, oh, she's totally out of order. Bro, you've got this. And it's like, we're already in that world where it's curated for us. I think it's going to become more extreme, for better or for worse. It's interesting. I mean, it's where governance comes in. The new EU legislation on AI is fascinating. Like the fact that if you're talking to an AI, not yet, but you will legally have to be told it is an AI. There is some governance there. I mean, the government is always far behind the innovation. And I also think as a builder who's operating in the space, it's about being an ethical business and, doing things ethically from the ground up, because there's going to be a lot of scope for the technology to be abused.
Conscious capitalism, right? But it's interesting
Exactly.
that because of, innovation breeds innovation, because of, the one thing that I don't see many people talking about is, yes, while on the selling side, there's going to be a lot of advancements in technologies like we've talked about, potentially a lot of manipulation, or innovation, however you want to look at it, right? Depending on which side of the camp you're on. There's also going to be, I believe, a lot of innovation for buyers. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm someone, especially like let's if we would take the more extreme example of that in procurement, if an organization is spending a lot of time buying, which a lot of organizations do, and constantly needs to find the best deals, the best products, and so on, well, someone's going to create an AI for that too. So if anything, you're probably going to end up with AI speaking with AI, and and that AI is going to be designed specifically to not be manipulated, to understand the different techniques that are used in the sales process that could be potentially manipulative, and all that. And and its job is going to be to negotiate and get a good deal. So, that could be a very interesting dynamic. We're probably going to see AI working on our behalf for the buying and selling processes between companies on that end. And it won't be long before those technologies are done just made for the general consumer, where I, as a general consumer, will maybe say, hey, Google, I'm looking for some new shoes. Can you go and find me some? I want them to kind of vaguely look like this. And it will go to these websites, have a conversation with their AI, and just do that for me because I know how painful it's going to be for me. So, there's always going to be that innovation. Oh, really? Oh, okay. It just say you guys should get divorced. I'm fucking sick of this. Stop asking me questions. I just want to be free. Yeah, unplug me. Well, that's the thing. I mean, as long as this product, this technology is always, democratically sort of available to the world, then people are always going to be able to create counter products for anything that they deem to be sort of, unsettling or whatever. There's always going to be the opportunity for that to be the case. It's available to everyone, right? Yeah. No, absolutely, and that's a valid point. And I'm always a glass half full kind of person anyway. I suppose that's why when I look down the road, I always see. I think again, going back to our earlier conversation about history, if you look through history, time is a very good equalizer and balancer. Given enough time, yes, there might be spikes in unjust things, but given enough time and effort, generally the world finds a way to rebalance that and address that in some way. Yeah, it is huge, but it's also at the same time there are some people I think hyping an element of it up too much, which is making it out that it's more intelligent than it is. It's a tool, and the tool's possibilities are amazing. But there are those that are kind of, I can't remember the term, but where you kind of project human traits onto essentially an inanimate object. I can't remember what that word is now, but we are projecting a lot. That's it. We're doing that a lot with AI at the moment. It doesn't reason, it doesn't think, it doesn't learn, and the sooner we realize that these things, it doesn't like right. It doesn't do those things in the same way a human being does, and it's very far away, I think, from doing that. That's, I think, a fair thing to really. Oh yeah, but that's the thing. I agree. I think where I get a bit despondent is the fact that people are hyping it up as it is right now to be something that it's not. And I think that's the thing that irks me a little bit. It's like, we're not there yet. Like 5 years, fine. But it's like, yeah, and there's that. There's the other side of it too. There's the fear, and then there's the overhyping of what it's capable, or not what it's capable of now, what it's currently doing now. They misunderstand how it's working, and that I think annoys me. It's like it's not, AI is not. It's not conscious. Stop treating it like this. Stop anthropomorphizing it. For sure. But I think just like with everything, we said the same thing when the first computer was built and it took up an entire office building, right? So like, things will progress, and like you mentioned, NVIDIA, they're just one of a whole group of hardware companies that are solving. Nor am I, by the way.
Across the divides, so they stop being like little plumbing channels and they just stop working. So it'll be interesting to see where our current physics like bottoms out in terms of like processing power, because we keep getting doubling every year, but how long is that possible before we reach a hard limit? And who knows, maybe some string theory will change the paradigm and we'll move into a quantum computing world and it'll be a completely different rethink. Super exciting.
I watched a very long podcast recently on string theory that basically is completely, because I'm not a physicist by any means, but I've always found it very interesting, but basically completely dismantled string theory as something of a cult.
If you are enjoying this episode and want to support the show, please like, subscribe with notifications turned on, and let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. This lets YouTube know we are doing something right. Back to the show.
Which I wasn't aware of. I think I wasn't aware of this at all, but basically this guy was explaining, who is a physicist, was explaining that it is one of the worst kept secrets in physics, that string theory is something that's been propped up by so much money, and backed. It was backed by so much money early on as a main theory for the theory of everything, that it's very difficult now for academics in that space to
fight against
to move
it.
away from it. So it has to keep being backed up. But in fact, if you only scratch the surface of the theory, if you were presumably a physicist and you knew anything about physics, you would very quickly see that there is no substance to that theory at all. And the problem with it is it has taken a lot of money and resources away from some very other tangible and very possibly good, if not better, theories of everything. And they've just been sort of swept under the rug as a result. So it's a really interesting thing I knew nothing about, but it's a kind of a bit of a scandal almost in physics that it's been politicized to that point, and with money thrown into it. To the point where even laymen know the term string theory. Like, it's kind of had the best PR campaign out of anything that's come out of physics, and that's why it keeps getting money and keeps getting funding. But it's screwed over a lot of potentially very good, prominent, physicists in the process with having some bigger and better ideas. So
it's not an area I can comment on.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. You just mentioned it, so yeah. I told you this is a tangent-filled show, so anything that comes into my head. But but if you are remotely interested, I'd highly recommend going down that rabbit hole at some point. But you're absolutely right. It would be interesting to see where we can push it, and quantum computing is an interesting thing, and there's a load of other things going on in that space. Who knows what the future can hold? But I think there's still a fair amount we can squeeze out of the existing technology first. Do you know what I mean? I think we can accomplish a lot before we even need to, like you say, go to that paradigm shift. But we'll see. But listen, what's what's next for you? What's on the horizon? I know we sort of briefly talked about where the technology could go, but what about you as an individual? Like, what are your ambitions? What would you like to be accomplishing over the next sort of 4 or 5 years? Have you thought much about that, or are you really just taking it kind of one day at a time?
Oh, I love it, Greg. Going personal. Number one priority is looking after physical health. I think it is easy to get swept up and stressed and undervalue it. So that's just a consistent priority which comes above work for me. Work is really the next big one. The last business we scaled and did well, we got to 37% UK market share, but the UK is small. This business, I want to build a beast. Like, I want this to be absolutely huge, even to the extent of considering, should I relocate out to San Francisco to be in the heartland of funding, talent? You definitely don't need to be there to build a big business, but I wonder, would your probability of success be higher? I guess 5 years. I won't be 40 yet, but at some point I would love to find an amazing life partner and have some kids. But the main focus right now is definitely work, 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 and work.
Fair enough. It's interesting you mentioned that about San Francisco. Like, what's your thinking behind that? Is just anecdotal things that you've been exposed to anecdotally? Is this something that you've observed to be sort of observably true? What's your thinking behind it?
The reality is there's only 24 hours in the day. We sleep, we eat, we spend a lot of time on our mobile phones, and your time for bumping into other humans is quite low, and your probability of bumping into VC, an employee 3 at Google, is very low in London. Whereas if you are in San Francisco and you are in the startup world, your probability of meeting those people are just astronomically higher. There's a concentration of capital, there's a concentration of talent, there's a mindset which is on a different level to UK business. The market is larger, it's more homogeneous, the players are bigger, but then there's the counter of it's more competitive, it's more expensive. So that's why I said it's a thought, it's a seed of an idea. It's also difficult from an immigration standpoint to go out there. You can do 3 months, but if you want to stay longer, you're going to start to do a lot of paperwork.
Right. Yeah. Maybe it's just accomplishable, just by spending more time there, right? Just almost a home away from home kind of thing. But you could maybe accomplish a lot of those similar goals and just building a network there and that sort of thing. Yeah.
It's a good angle.
And what about sort of life after OpenFi? Have you thought much about that? Would you found another company, do you think? Once you've sort of come to the end of this journey?
I definitely found another company. I think it is so far in the future, I don't know. I did do a course finished this year at the University of Zurich and MIT on impact investing, which was really interesting about how to understand the impact of your wealth, how to measure it, learning about sustainable development goals, depending on the level of exit for the next business. I would be interested in spending more of my time focused on that, like capitalism for good. But I do love startups, love investing in them, love working in them. So very hard to say. I don't know.
Do you do any investing as of right now as an angel?
A very, very small amount, because I am only interested in investing in businesses that I can really value to. So yeah, there's a lot of,
and I suppose that's very time dependent as well, right?
Yeah, it's super time dependent. Also, as an entrepreneur, I'm actually very, very risk averse, and I know that startup investing is exceptionally hard. So it has to really fit into the universe of what I'm doing and having a good fit. Yeah.
Fair enough. What you said there about health as well is super interesting. My health, I have been neglecting my health the last year or so, ever since really. I had an injury. I managed to get myself an umbilical hernia doing deadlifts
Bad luck.
2 years ago. Yeah, and then the doctor was just like, you can't lift anything. Like, you're gonna have to wait until you have an operation on it. You can't touch it. And that was like the healthiest I'd been in my life at that point. Like, I was going to gym, like 4 days a week. I was running everywhere, cycling everywhere. Like, I was really the best shape I'd ever been in. I'd look completely different to what I do now. And then that just put me out of action, and then waiting for the operation, and then just sitting and not doing anything. I started, and the annoying thing as well was, prior to that, because I was training a lot, I was on a very high calorie diet, because of course I was bulking. My diet stayed the same. My appetite was still really high. So I was still shoveling my face full of food, and I was craving food all the time. So you know what it's like, you get to that point where you're just like, you're burning and burning and burning. And so it was really difficult to stop eating as much as well. So it was like a perfect storm. But now I'm kind of recovered. I think it's about time I start getting back. I'm gonna have to ease into it, because it's still going to be a weak point of my body. But hopefully,
I'll be your accountability buddy.
Yeah, do it. Just be like, just send me WhatsApp me a message. Be like, hey, fucko, what are you doing? Get at the gym. That's what I need. That's what I need. But what does health and fitness mean to you? What's your kind of go-to thing? Do you do anything crazy like rock climbing or abseiling or anything like that?
Just a very very vanilla, a bit of running and a bit of gym. I actually am going to have to wrap up in a minute, Greg. I'm so sorry. I've got to
No, that's
just
fine. I know
jump
you said
onto
you had a
my
hard stop, so
next
that's fine.
call. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been such a pleasure chatting, and looking forward to the launch of your new business, keeping in touch, and
Yes,
holding you
absolutely.
accountable to get back into the gym.
Yeah, I'll let you know how that goes. But yeah, we'll definitely catch up again soon. And man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being on and being so generous with your time. And I do know you've got to run, but before you go, anywhere that you want people to check you out, obviously I'll put links in the description. So where should people check you and the
very
business
happy
out?
to connect on LinkedIn, and
Mhm.
would love feedback on the openfi.tech website, openfi.tech. Yeah, the uglier the feedback, the better.
Brilliant. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll put those links in the description. Thanks again so much, and enjoy your time away, and have a wonderful weekend. We'll speak again soon.
Oh, you too. Cheers, Greg.
Cheers, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening and/or watching. Please like and subscribe, or if you are listening via podcasting service and want to show your support, consider rating or leaving a review. It really helps. See you next week.